Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the show. You are listening to the Wannabe Critic podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about the Book of Boba Fett, episode 6, gentlemen, which was called A Stranger in the Desert or something like that, right? What was it called? Can someone look it up?
I can get you it right now. I'm in the process.
Okay, awesome. For those of you that are looking upon this mess of a studio, I am changing studio spaces. So right in the middle of moving stuff around. It's really, really exciting. Really excited to kind of see what happens with it. And as you can see, I have my drums set up at last, gentlemen. So it was a glorious day.
So excited for that. So excited for it.
Yeah, I jammed out today. It was pretty awesome. For audio listeners only. Sorry. But along with me, I have my two of my cohorts. I have Elijah Middlesworth and Jacob Labriere. Gentlemen, how are we feeling tonight?
Feeling great.
Very nice.
It's on.
I just finished the episode, so I'm all hyped up right now.
Yeah, I literally haven't been able to think of anything else today, to be honest with you. So
I have a lot of questions / odd predictions that I'm relying on your guys' more in-depth knowledge of Star Wars to help me figure this out.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Gentlemen, we're gonna skip the pleasantries of catching up. We're just gonna dive straight into the episode. Okay. So if you have not watched episode 6 of the Book of Boba Fett, I highly recommend that you stop listening right now. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna go through the episode. We're gonna talk about some things we liked, maybe some things we didn't like, and then we're gonna make some predictions. So, for lack of a better word, Mando went to go see his little friend Grogu, who just happened to be training with Luke Skywalker. And my, oh my, did it look awesome seeing him. And I don't know, I just had tears in my eyes this entire episode, you guys. It was really special. Also, we basically find out, he goes to see Grogu, but he doesn't really get to see him. Ahsoka says, this would endanger his training, yada, yada, yada. So he gives Ahsoka the what we essentially predicted, which was ring mail. Gives him the ring mail, and he basically just flies away. Doesn't even get to see Grogu. But at the end of the episode, gentlemen, Luke gives Grogu an ultimatum and says, look, the Mandalorian brought you something, but if you want it, you'll have to turn down this. Which whenever I saw that little box next to Luke, I was like, that there's a lightsaber in there. And whenever he pulled it out, I was like, is that Yoda's lightsaber? And then sure enough, he was going to give Grogu Yoda's lightsaber. So that's kind of where it cuts. We don't know what Grogu's going to decide. But it was interesting.
What a way to end an episode. I mean, just that is a massively annoying cliffhanger.
That was the best ending, though, by far. So far out of
this is the best. This is the best episode so far.
And I'll tell you why. So I'm on the old Googles right now, and chapter 6, From the Desert Comes a Stranger. And this really explains why it's so good, is because Dave Filoni directed this episode. So, I mean, that's why it's so good. I mean, we got it right from the source.
Yeah, I mean, he just has a touch, man. That's just one of a kind. But there was, kind of that arc with Grogu and Luke. We got to see our friend on screen again. That was awesome. Ahsoka, kind of showing up, and we got to see the new Jedi temple being built, which was pretty cool. Also, aside from that, Mando's story continues. He is trying to get people to, join his cause to fight and help Boba Fett, and do all that, which is really, really rad. And he goes to Mos Pelga. Was that what it was called? Mos
Freetown? Pelego. Mos Pelego, which is Freetown now.
Okay, yeah. So he goes to Freetown where we see Timothy Olyphant, and he's like, help me, yada, 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 flies away. Timothy Olyphant says, hey, let's get a meeting together. We're going to, talk about this. And then out of the distance, we see a black figure walking towards the town. And I about crap my pants.
I guarantee you this is Jake's favorite part of the episode.
Whenever it's walking and I saw the black brimmed hat, I knew immediately who it was and where we were going next. And it was one of those things surely not. Surely this won't be, and sure enough, it was Cad Bane, ladies and gentlemen, in the flesh. Fastest gun in the galaxy. And boy, oh boy, he wounded the marshal, and he also killed his deputy. And it was just so freaking cool to see Cad Bane live action on screen. I about wet myself, but it was just a jam-packed episode all across the board. And I'm just super curious to kind of hear what you guys thought of it. I'm super curious to talk about it and theorize on it. So, Lige, why don't you kind of walk us through your thoughts on the episode? Let us know what you liked and what you didn't like, that whole deal.
Holy cow. Man, the whole episode was just, we talked about last week a lot. The episode 5 was phenomenal. Like, I think we all four of us said, us three and Ryan Dalton included, all said that episode 5 was probably the best episode in the whole series so far. This blows that episode out of the water. Yep. Like, I have my, like, the episode as a whole, the story was phenomenal. Nothing wrong with it. I do have issues with it on placement a little bit, which we can get into that later. But I mean, from the moment that we saw Cobb Vanth, that very beginning shootout episode with the Pikes, like that was chilling. Like, I like that character. Like, he's very Clint Eastwood, more so than Boba Fett or Mandalorian is at all. I mean, he's got the look, he's got the gentleman's look, but also the rough scowl about him, the very quick hand, very Western, very Clint Eastwood like. And I really, really dug that. I'm a fan of Westerns, so seeing that aspect into it was great. And then obviously when Luke Skywalker's face is first shown, and Ryan Dalton commented on this, that Disney hired one of the best deepfake artists in the world. After he showed the internet what he could do, they hired him, and obviously they're putting his work to good use, because at least half of the episode you could barely tell that it was CGI. I think that first half of the episode you could tell. The second half, it got a little rocky, in my opinion.
Yeah, there were some spots for sure.
There were some spots you could tell. It was mainly the nose. The nose was a little off.
Which is funny, because even on those rough patches, it was still like 10 times better than Disney's.
Oh yeah, I mean, it still was whoever Disney hired first. Like, it was, no matter the worst part in that episode was still better than that season finale episode for sure. And I felt like we saw a lot. Luke's personality in this episode was a lot more to his character than the last time that we saw him. Like, that dark, mysterious, serious person that we saw in that season finale was not present in this episode, and I really appreciated that. And then seeing Order 66 obviously was really, really sweet.
Yeah.
And I think I texted you guys as I was watching it. I think my favorite part, and I'll leave it at that, I'll let someone else take the reins here, was when Ahsoka Tano told Din Djarin, "I'm an old friend of the family." Like, that hit home. That hit home to me so hard. Like, I was like, that means they had that Luke and Ahsoka had that heartfelt reunion at some point that and we probably, all hope that would happen.
Well, and probably like talked a lot about everything that happened, and like had to have given Luke some sort of like solace mentally. But yeah, no, whenever she's like, yeah, I'm a friend of the family. I was watching this with Emma, and I was like, I had to pause it. I was like, you know who Ahsoka is, right? And she's like, well, yeah, she's, she was during the Clone Wars or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but Anakin trained Ahsoka, so she knows a lot about Anakin. And then whenever she
knows more about Luke's dad than Luke does.
Yeah, like whenever Emma came to the realization, like, just her jaw dropped, and it's just, we live in a world where we're seeing a live action Ahsoka Tano talking to Luke Skywalker, which I never thought would happen. It looks exactly like him. I mean, it's insane how good the deep fake is. So
very good.
Yeah.
And I'm very pleased with how Ahsoka is being portrayed in live action form.
Same.
I don't feel like that she's very amiss to her animated character at all. Like, I feel like that they're spot on, as best as they could possibly get from animation to live action. A fantastic job.
Did you change your feeling on that within the past couple episodes?
What do you mean?
Because didn't you, or maybe it wasn't on an episode then. Maybe you didn't say it on episode, but we were talking one day and you didn't like her so much.
Yes, yeah, we did talk that was off camera. We did.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, my opinion has changed, at least from what I've seen in this episode. That what I've seen in this episode of Ahsoka is more of what I wanted than what I saw in season 2 of Mandalorian. So I'm very pleased with how Ahsoka is being portrayed now.
Okay.
I dig it.
Was there anything that you weren't crazy about?
The only thing I wasn't crazy about, and it's not with the story at all. The story itself is phenomenal. Like, I would not change an ounce about the episode. I got a couple things. I guess I'll go with one that might conflict with Jake's best part of the show would be Cad Bane. I'm not upset that he's there at all. Like, I feel like that is a great plot point and a good tie-in to previous things that we've seen. I just didn't care for how he was portrayed live action. I felt like it could have been the costume could have been done a little bit better. The face was not so Duros, long. It was more short and circular, short and chubby.
Well, but it's been like 20 years. Like, he's old. He was already old before.
Well, I had a thought on that too, because that was I initially thought that about Cad Bane. I also kind of thought that about the Pikes when they first showed the Pikes, but I don't know. In my opinion, it was in live action. They probably could have mimicked exactly how they looked in the cartoon, but I feel like if you're bringing it to live action, you almost have to get a little bit more realistic with the look wise. And I wondered if elongating his face as much as it was in the cartoon, if it would have been a little too much.
Well, and you only have so much what you can work with, and I understand that you can only go so far with creating an actual person into someone that looks like a cartoon.
Well, yeah,
so
and that's
I
the thing is, like,
that.
Did they use CGI or was that someone in a costume?
That was someone in a costume for sure.
Had to have been. So. I think the fact that like it looked as good as it did, and like I kind of thought the same thing, and I was like, man, his face is kind of chubby. But I was like, well, it's been like 25 years or longer than that since we saw him in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, like, you could play it into that too. It's just that was just one thing that kind of
just
stuck out at my ADHD brain a little
kind
bit.
Kind of little like uncanny valley a little bit type thing.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
I thought Cad Bane, it was interesting, like him talking about Boba, because him and Boba, if I recall correctly, like they have history from the Clone Wars. Like whenever he was a little kid, like whenever he was young, kind of getting his crew together. Like, wasn't he going up, or didn't something happen between him and Cad Bane?
I think Boba hired him for that job to try and assassinate Mace Windu in the Jedi Temple. Or I think it was the Senate building, actually.
Yeah.
That they infiltrated, trying to assassinate Mace Windu.
Yeah, I need to go back and watch that episode because I would like to know like what their history is, Do
you remember, Jake? You're the one that's watched it, probably the most recent.
Was that was Clone Wars?
Yeah, that was Clone Wars, where young Boba went in with a bunch of bounty hunters and assassins to kill Mace Windu.
Is that who? Yeah. Because that's the same episode, wasn't it, where Obi-Wan and Anakin went to basically track Cad Bane down, right?
Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah,
I don't
something.
Sure.
I feel like something went south though, like with a deal that they had or something like that. So I need to go back and watch it because I can't remember, but yeah,
it might be revealed in the season.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, that's true. I get what you're saying though about like it looking a little weird, because it definitely came to my mind as well.
And if that's the worst thing I have to say about the whole episode, that's a good thing.
I have something that's equally like as petty, I think, but I'll save it.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jake. Your turn.
Man, it was kind of hard to pick a favorite in this episode for me because I actually really enjoyed a lot of it. Lige touched on Luke, the way he looked. Uh, you kind of touched on the lightsaber, Yoda's lightsaber. I thought that was a lightsaber, but being Yoda's didn't even cross my mind. So that was a pretty nice kind of surprise I didn't expect. Um, I think probably for the shock value, Cad Bane was probably my favorite part. I thought the voice was really well. I thought the his whole uh, cadence was done really well.
Which is that the same actor that played him in the Clone Wars? Because it sounded exactly like him.
Well, the guy in the Clone Wars, like he had kind of like a voice like alter, like that kind of made his voice a little more like, like robotic
Almost,
a little bit.
yeah, robotic, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look that up and see.
Yeah, please do. What else, Jake?
So Cad Bane was probably just based off of shock value was probably my favorite part. Something I really liked though was during Grogu's training, the callback to Return of the Jedi with Luke and Yoda in the scene where Luke's running, flipping, he's got Grogu on his back. I really liked how that was kind of a callback to Return of the Jedi with him.
You mean Empire?
Oh, was that Empire?
Yeah,
Whenever
that's
he's
Empire.
training? Yeah.
Oh,
I thought the
okay,
same
I'm sorry.
thing. Whenever that was happening, I was like, oh my God. I don't know. It was giving me the feels hard.
Yeah.
I was loving it.
I really liked that. And I liked too, Sierra's actually the one who brought it up, that you could it was cool to see Luke training Grogu because you could see, I think Elijah touched on the change in Luke's personality. You could see his patience that he's developed, and it was kind of cool to see you could tell he understood how Yoda felt training him. Like just the little facial expressions he would make, like when he told Grogu to jump or whatever it was, and Luke's face was kind of like, okay,
Yeah.
like why aren't you getting this? Just use the Force.
Yeah.
I think overall that was probably my favorite part. I loved the scenery, how they painted the scenery. It was beautiful. But I think overall my favorite part was probably that with Luke and training Grogu.
So before we get too far away, the actor that portrayed him in person is not the same character, but the voice is the same character. Corey Burton played him in the Clone Wars and is also voicing over for the Book of Boba Fett.
Really? That's really
Yes.
cool.
Sweet.
Dope. Yeah,
as far as 3 articles say, that's what I got.
That's really cool. I mean, if this was like something that would have been leaked a while back, like I would have had no idea that this would have been a character we were getting in this series. Excuse me. I'm really tired, gents. Yeah, like I love that entire. Oh, what was something you weren't crazy about, Jake?
I watched it twice and I looked for something. I guess kind of if I had to nitpick something and be picky, I would maybe, like Elijah mentioned, the couple scenes towards the end where Luke's face wasn't quite as well done, but I mean, I tell you who I didn't really care for was the deputy. I'm kind of glad he died.
That guy
He was kind of annoying.
He was a tool.
Yeah.
But that's a Western staple. You always have that hothead deputy that always thinks he knows what he's doing, and undermines the marshal or the sheriff. I mean, he spoke up when he wasn't supposed to, and you could see it on the marshal's face, like, you just ruined a situation where I had the upper hand, now I don't.
Yep. Yeah. So I guess probably just those two things. Something real quick I did like as well, Elijah got into it, was Ahsoka, some of her lines, and the other line where she said she looked at Luke and she was like, what'd she say, just like your father or something?
Mm-hmm.
I just that was a nice line.
That gave me a little bit of tingles too.
What they're doing and like connecting the animated space with this live action show is something that I would have never even thought to be possible. Like, and they're just doing it like seamlessly. Dave Filoni has a clear vision, and it's incredible to see. For me, I really liked this entire episode a lot. It's really, really hard to, as you guys have said, to pick one thing. One thing I think I enjoyed, I just wanted to talk about, was just kind of like what Jake was talking about, was while they were training, kind kind of showing those moments, those those moments where Grogu's personality can really shine through, which is kind of crazy because that's a puppet.
Mm-hmm.
And just the fact that they can like get so many animated expressions out of a puppet and make us feel like it's real is insane to me. Um, the whole thing with the frog, whenever Luke's like Grogu, I don't know. I really liked that. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
really understand why Luke. I thought about this because I got about 15 minutes into the episode by myself. And then I woke Emma up and I was like, hey, we got to watch this like right now. That moment whenever Luke, picked up all of the frogs out of the water. At first, I didn't quite understand why he did that and why they decided to put that in there. But I think what Luke was trying to do was literally show Grogu, like, hey, this is what the Force is capable of doing. You'd never have to worry about food again. You'd never have to worry about providing for yourself again, and you know how to use the Force. I also appreciate how right after we got that flashback sequence, and it looked like the 501st was very focused on grabbing. It's like almost like they had a separate mission to grab him.
Mm-hmm.
You think that's what that was?
Yeah, because they're like, there it is, grab it. Like, so I'm wondering how that's going to unfold, like what that whole thing is. I really like how they're subtly kind of moving Grogu's story along because, guys, Grogu is going to be a focal point in Star Wars in the future.
What do you think? What do you think Grogu's status is right now? Because I mean, I think about on the comment that Luke brought up is like it's more like he's remembering things than I am teaching him. How much do you think Grogu knows?
I think he probably would have been. I think he's like supernaturally gifted, and maybe he would have been kind of sheltered away from the other younglings for the simple fact of like it wouldn't have been the same, like something is special about Grogu for sure.
Yeah.
He's just very, 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 very force sensitive and already really strong in the force. And we've never seen him use a lightsaber, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't know how. So, it's interesting. Like whenever we play Jedi Fallen Order, Cal Kestis, he suppressed a lot of his abilities. And as you move farther through the game, he starts to kind of like remember more and more about the skills that he had and like the things that he could do. And I think in a way that's probably what Grogu is doing. He's suppressed stuff so far, but as with Luke's training, he was unlocking more and more knowledge, more and more abilities. And Luke evidently unlocked something within him to where he's very aware of what has happened to him and where he's from. But we don't know that as the audience yet.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever he makes them choose, I like that they didn't let them see each other, because whenever they inevitably reunite and become like a duo, like it's going to be that much sweeter,
Are we still
whenever
convinced that they're going to reunite?
they have to. It's a perfect opportunity for the future for Luke Skywalker to never have to train Grogu, because then he can focus on his new Jedi Temple and his new students if they decide to keep the sequels canon. But if they decide to keep the sequels canon, like that's one way to save your butt, is like, yeah, like he chose to be a Mandalorian instead. So I don't know. I'm convinced that they would not show us the ring mail and like the construction of the ring mail. They would not allow that character to make a sacrifice like that if Grogu wasn't going to take the ring mail and use it. And this would just back up our theory too of Din losing the dark saber potentially. Because then Grogu could use it or take it. So
But I'm just wondering how. I mean, I guess we talked about that last week a little bit.
So, yeah, I have some.
yeah, we're officially in the theory section, gentlemen. Oh, and one thing I didn't like, I just thought Grogu doing like jumps and flips looked stupid. I didn't like the way it looked. Like I know, like it was more comical than anything, but
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of Yoda flipping and yelling learning more
I
about
don't like the yelling.
Yeah, well, and learning more about that style of fighting. So Force users and Jedi, they use their voice. So there's a style that involves using your voice, which if you listen in episode 3, whenever the Emperor's like, yeah, before he starts killing the Jedi, there's like a force yell, like a force scream, almost like the Dovahkiin from Skyrim. So it's very possible that Yoda would have been doing the same thing in that scene, but we wouldn't have known that until later exposition why he might be doing that. So I'm not a fan. Like, the flipping is cool, but I just the flipping and yelling at the same time is just kind of comical to me. But anyways, that's a side point. We're officially in the theory section. So
can I give one more thing? I don't care about the episode before we move on.
This is your last chance. Freaking
okay,
Elijah.
I was just waiting. I didn't want to say it, but I really feel like this needs to be brought up, at least for me. I didn't want to say it just in case one of you guys wanted to talk about it. But does it bother anybody else that this is Boba Fett's show, but the Mandalorian has seemed to be taking over?
That was one of the things I was going to say was I'm not going to complain because obviously the episodes are better with Mando, but that was something I was kind of like, all right, if this is Boba's show, I get what they're doing, but I'm like at the same time like, okay, this is 2 episodes in a row now where Boba's not even a part of it.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm ashamed to say that the best part of the series is the episodes that Boba's in it little to none at all.
Yeah,
But what did I tell you guys 2 episodes ago? They are pushing Boba Fett out of relevance with this show.
I don't. Do you think it's that, or do you think it's they filmed 4 episodes and they reviewed them and were like, "This is crap. This is gonna be destroyed. We got to fix something quickly."
Absolutely not. That there's no way, and pardon my French, but there's no way in hell that happened. There's absolutely no chance that they would have reviewed production, looked at what they had, and said, "We got to fix this," because I don't buy that for one second.
Well, I guess that makes sense too, because now I'm looking at the Wikipedia page, and the next episode is directed by Robert Rodriguez. Episode 7 is.
Oh God.
The final episode of the series.
Great.
That's
the last. Yeah, that's the last episode.
Oh,
Jonathan's gonna ruin.
Look,
Jonathan.
Look, here's the thing. I feel like this show, the only way that this new Star Wars universe works in trying to tell these TV shows is you have to have crossover. And any chance you can take to accentuate, it's like Ryan said last week, like Mando Din Djarin is officially a legend in Star Wars. Like he is an icon at this point. If you want to include Boba, I mean, you're gonna have a lot of opportunity for marketing. You're gonna have a lot of opportunity, a lot of toys to sell for Boba Fett stuff. But I think they're going to push Boba Fett out of the picture a lot. Like, I think they want Din to take center stage, because guess what? Whenever marketing was being released for the Mandalorian, what were we all saying about the Mandalorian before knowing anything about him? Like, oh, is that supposed to be Boba? Like, who is this? Like, is this the new Boba Fett? Like, what's going on? That's what my family was talking about and my friends were talking about. And in a sense, it's like, well, what about Boba Fett? Like, what happened to him? Now, if they can make us care about Boba Fett in his own series and have him doing things that are interesting and get us to, care about what he is doing, that gives him an opportunity to accentuate Din Djarin's character and his purpose and what he's doing. So a couple weeks ago, I said, like, oh, Boba Fett should probably die. After thinking about it more, I don't think he doesn't need to die, but he's going to become irrelevant one way or the other, because Din Djarin has to take center stage with Grogu. It makes.
But then why call it the Book of Boba Fett? Why not call it Mandalorian 3?
Well, I mean,
if Mandalorian's just going to come in and steal the show, and Boba Fett has 3 episodes where he truly shines, why bring Mandalorian in and call it Book of Boba Fett if this is just a continuation for Mandalorian's story?
To be fair, I mean, there's been 5 other episodes or 4 other episodes
4.
that have focused on Boba Fett. And I think bringing in Din for a couple episodes of exposition to set up his next season and show what he's doing to get to that point to where he can help Boba Fett in the last episode makes a lot of sense. Because if he had shown up and just been like, "Oh, here I am, like I'm ready to help," we would have been like, we as wannabe critics would have been like, "This feels a little forced." Like,
and it ruins the character at that point.
yeah. So
I get that.
What they're doing, I think, is fine, because at the end of the day, you're still gonna have 6 episodes or 5 episodes that are heavily Boba Fett focused in what he is doing, and I'm very interested to see. Does it irritate us a little bit? I don't know that it irritates me. It's more of a thing of like, I find it interesting more than anything, because Boba Fett only got resurrected, and the idea of Boba Fett only got resurrected because of what happened in The Mandalorian. So it would make sense to give him a sliver of storytelling, and say, okay, this is what Boba Fett's doing right now, and this is how he's going to reconvene with Din.
If I really have to nitpick about this category, this section of Star Wars and I really have to nitpick, because in my opinion, even the episodes with Boba Fett, Mandalorian season 1 and 2, probably some of the best Star Wars we've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
Compared to the sequel trilogy, I love the sequel trilogy. I know you feel differently about it now. I still like them, but this is better Star Wars. And so for me,
yeah,
it's just, if I'm going to nitpick it, why not make it plain that this is all one storyline? These are not separate shows. This is let's say The Mandalorian's not a thing. This is Mandalorian season 1, season 2, and then season 3 - Book of Boba Fett. Why wouldn't you do it like that? If that's what you're doing in the long run anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is what Disney's doing is like kind of hyping us up, right? So if you call it Mandalorians plural, that's going to infer that we're going to be seeing other Mandalorians. But the big debate about Boba Fett was always, is he a Mandalorian or isn't he? And we have learned so far, wait, is he a Mandalorian now technically?
Yeah, because he showed the data chain that armor is
his.
It's by right.
Yeah,
by right. Mandalorian right, it's his.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So I get where you're coming from. It is very nitpicky, but the way they are unveiling stuff to us and like continuing to push the narrative for us with their titles and stuff is really impressive to me, because you can legitimately not predict what is going to happen. And
go ahead, Jake.
I was gonna say, do you think that could play to favor of maybe they will kill off Boba Fett?
I'm telling you, without a shadow of a doubt, you don't have to wonder. Boba Fett may still be around. He is not going to be a thing. Like,
no, I don't think so.
Absolutely not. And they are using Boba Fett to make Mando look cooler and seem cooler and make him seem like he has a grander purpose, because in the long, like, whether you realize it or not, or whether people realize it or not, he does. He is a head and shoulders better character, and always will be.
I hate that you're right. I really do hate that you're right.
Which does play into what we talked about last week with they're bringing in a whole new generation of Star Wars fans.
Yes.
And so while, original Star Wars fans love Boba, it's kind of like, hey, times are changing. He's old. He's getting old now. So we're going to phase him out in a respectable way. But here's our guy.
See, I don't think it's respectable, though. In my opinion, I don't feel like the way that they're phasing him out is respectful to his character at all. I feel like they are completely and utterly shafting Boba Fett. I really do.
Or the mythos of Boba Fett and what we think of when we think of him.
I mean, so we didn't see him in very many scenes, but I mean, like, there's a reason why our eyes went to Boba Fett in the small time that we saw him. He's cool. He is the most mysterious, samurai cowboy that we've ever seen. And I just feel like they're not living up to him. Kill him off at the end of the season if you want. Kill him off. But at least make him look good before he dies.
I think
there's no way of doing that now, in my opinion.
Oh, I think in this last episode, I think he'll have some action, and we'll be impressed by it.
I think whatever happens in the last episode, like Robert Rodriguez, for all of the jokes to make about him, he's done a good job, I think. I mean, he hasn't been done bad. I think he's done a good job. He
hasn't done bad.
I mean, and the fact of the matter is, he's been an executive producer on every single one of these episodes. This is a big project that he has had a hand on in every single episode of this show. So to me, it's like some creative choices that were made earlier in the season, you know, say what you want about them. They will make this last episode feel right, I think. But one thing we have to remember, guys, is like, what has Boba been through? Okay, we know his history on Kamino. We saw what happened. We know he probably doesn't. I mean, he definitely doesn't like Mace Windu, or maybe he came to grips with like the fact that his dad was a scumbag. Like, we don't know anything about what he's done or what he's gone through the past 40 years, 30 years, whatever. We don't know. We don't know, and nothing is canon as to what has happened and what he has gone through.
I mean, his flashbacks at the beginning of the show did show both Mace Windu killing his father. So, I mean, if he's still thinking about it, he might be holding on to it still.
Yeah, maybe. He might be holding on to it, or maybe he's come to peace with it. Maybe I don't know. I think there's a lot of narrative that's missing to where now it's kind of weird, because whenever we get this new Boba Fett, it's like he is nothing like what we think of when we think of Boba Fett. But Disney is telling us this is who Boba Fett is now. And I don't hate it. I just don't know that it matches up with the Boba Fett that dies in the Sarlacc pit, or that we thought died in the Sarlacc pit. And maybe in a way it's kind of a, like a visual representation of kind of like a rebirth for Boba Fett coming out of the Sarlacc pit and having his armor stripped away and having to earn that again and having to humble himself, like from Sand People. Like, he earns his way through the ranks of that tribe. People,
which I like.
People that we thought were completely mindless, like what Jake used the term animals. Like, there's a lot there that he had to do that wasn't shown on screen to gain rank in that tribe. And I love it. I think that's rad. We don't know how much time he spent with them either. We don't know how much time he's been in the desert. I wish we do too.
I think that's what all of us wish this series was.
Well, and here's the thing:
great that we have the Mandalorian, but we want it to be. I want it to be about Boba Fett. Not Mando.
I have to agree. I think that there was a, whatever their plan is, if they knew they were going to be phasing Boba Fett out in one way or the other, whether it's, hey, we're not going to see him again for a really long time, like, he's just going to pop in and out, whatever they're planning on doing, and giving Boba Fett 5 episodes, 6 episodes to shine and set up his new life here on Tatooine, it opens up the opportunities for his story to continue, and through legit comics, legit books, legit cartoons. Like, imagine a like Clone Wars-esque style show about Boba Fett and what he's doing. I'd almost rather the live action than an animated series. If you're going to do TV, I would almost rather you make what we wanted in this series into a live action. I have a hot take.
Not an animated.
Temuera Morrison, it does not sell it as Boba Fett.
I see. I have to disagree with you.
Well, that's fine. You can like it all you want. I don't. It doesn't do anything for me personally. But you can like it. I mean, I don't know. It's frustrating because I think like he did a good job as the clones like throughout the entire series. But like, for me, I don't buy it. I don't buy him. Like, he's a cool character. I just don't think of him as being like Boba Fett,
And do you think that, though, just because of the way they're writing Boba Fett for this show? Or do you think it's actually his acting?
I think it literally, if you put a helmet on Boba Fett this entire time, instead of showing us his face and what he looks like and like make us wonder, like, because body language is a thing. So I mean, if I can read the way he's acting, we talk about great performances. You can like it all you want. It's not a good performance.
But I don't think that works, though. I don't think it works because let me tell you why. Because we know that Boba Fett is a clone. We know what Jango Fett looks like. So all we're thinking about, I mean, even watching Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, his voice is dubbed over the original guy's voice in Empire Strikes Back. We know it's him. We know what he looks like. So I don't think it works. You know, I mean, it's not like Din Djarin where this new character comes in and before the series was released, the first season of Mando, we had no idea what Mando was going to even look like or what he was going to act like. We had no idea. Yeah. That's what made him work. And I just don't think you could do that with Boba Fett again. Restart the cycle.
But you don't think... Go ahead. Sorry, Jake.
I was saying, so you're saying you don't think that putting the helmet on Boba and leaving it on him for this series would have worked?
Not as much as we think it would. I mean, he would have to take off his helmet at some point.
That's fine. You know? That's fine. What would be more epic? Him having his freaking helmet off the entire time, or having it be in there, knowing what he looks like, and then having him take it off like at the end of the series? Because here's the thing. I get what you're saying, but I disagree because Boba Fett in every other live action setting keeps his freaking helmet on.
Well, and look what they did with Mando.
And that's the thing. Well, sorry, go ahead, Jake. I want to hear what you have to say.
I was just gonna say that. I mean, that's what they did with Mando. He's kept his helmet on. He's taken it off once, maybe twice, out of all the seasons.
And I think,
but that's to his character. They put that like in the first part of the series was you don't take your helmet off, or that's a big no-no. You're an apostate. You know, practically. I mean, they said that in the last episode.
Well, they showed us it with Boba Fett for 40 years. Like, Boba Fett has always kept his helmet on and that adds to his mystery. But like, you had a perfect opportunity for him to reclaim his armor, and he put his helmet on in Mandalorian. So to me, it's like leaving his helmet on, like that is part of his character. And we compare Din Djarin to Boba Fett because he leaves his helmet on. So for me, it's like if they're trying to show us this new Boba Fett iteration, this new Boba Fett character, I still think a core piece of his character should have his helmet on. And I think that would add to the performance because you're not having to look at Tamora Morrison's expressions and wonder what he means. Like it would be cold. It would be cold, but it would also be calculated. I think it would work fine. And not to mention at the beginning of the series, he has his helmet on as he's doing business. Like as he's trying to like carry out his new duties and like do his thing, he has his helmet on while he's on his throne.
And that was my point in the last episode, saying that I think if it would have kept it on for the majority of the time, that keeps, to me, in my opinion, that keeps a lot of the mystique around his character.
Yeah, and keeping it on. I was listening to that episode a couple days ago, Jake, and I was thinking like, man, I want to explore that more. And here we are now talking about it. Because if I had the choice, Tamora Morrison, like his voice is iconic. Like we know what he sounds like. That's fine. You can do that in an animated series and literally not have to rely on physicality whenever it comes to doing stunts. You can literally do whatever you want and have the authenticity be there and have him do the voice acting. Like, I don't know. Like, but if we got more live action Boba Fett, that would be rad. Tamora Morrison is old. And the action we've gotten so far of the stuff he's done has sucked. It has not been good.
I don't agree.
Are you serious?
I don't agree.
Elijah, tell me if this is what you were thinking, but I think I agree with Elijah in the sense of if we had a choice and it's going to be done right, I want live action. I like the cartoons, but every time I would much rather have live action over the cartoons. But that was kind of my thought with what you just mentioned, Gabe, was I don't think he's done bad, but I don't think he's done overly well at it either. So
he hasn't done anything that was as cool as what he did in The Mandalorian. So whenever we watched him in The Mandalorian season 2, beating those stormtroopers up, we were like, oh my God, like, holy crap, this is dope. He has not done anything to that caliber in this season yet. Has he?
Not yet. I mean, to that caliber.
He blew up some people in that one episode. That was pretty dope.
Yeah, I mean,
he got stunned by Chrysanthemum. Like, you know.
he is sticking to his character and how it has developed now. That's what he's doing. You can go back. I know people are going to go back and they're going to listen to previous episodes and be like, oh, well, you crapped all over his whole, choreography and all his fight scenes. I know I did. And I'm admitting to that. I rewatched the whole series the other night. I rewatched it up to episode 5 and I enjoyed every action sequence that Boba was in because, and I got this from you, Gabe. I took a lot of thought into what you were saying. This is Boba Fett now, not Boba Fett in Empire Strikes Back. He went from soldier to emperor. Very frankly, that's what he did. And he's hurt. He spent a lot of time in the Sarlacc pit. Who knows how long he was in the Sarlacc pit, and his armor kept him alive. So he's playing to his character, and I like it. I like it. If this is who Boba Fett is now, I really like it.
That's why I was saying I think he's doing a decent job, but I think it's limited to the character development is the biggest issue.
Yeah, I mean, like 20 minutes ago, Elijah was just saying like, you don't think they're servicing Boba Fett, but you just said you like Boba Fett like now.
I do, but so when I said that was Mandalorian's taking away from Boba. There's no arguing that the Mandalorian in this series is the better character. There's no arguing that. I wish that they would take what they took and put in these 2 episodes and took that idea building and the creativeness and the directing and the writing and put that all into Boba Fett. Let Mando have his own series. If this is truly a book of Boba Fett, let it be about Boba Fett. Don't build the Mando's storyline. Wait for season 3.
I feel like too, it's kind of a result of how much content we're going to start seeing from Star Wars.
I have a question for you too. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, that was pretty much it. I think there's so much content coming that putting Mando into the show was like the only way they could squeeze some of this information in that we need to see.
Yeah, I agree because I think. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, and I kind of do think what you said, Gabe. I think they are gonna start just phasing out Boba.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. Like, I want this to be full on Boba Fett. It's just the fact of it's not as good. Like, and I don't think there's nothing to do with this character now. Like, I think physical capability really hold back. Like, here's the thing too, is like we've seen an aged Boba Fett. We've seen him like struggle. Like, we've seen him get like wrecked repeatedly. And I don't think you can have the same caliber content that we have with the Mandalorian. Even if you took all the resources and all the stuff and put it aside, I don't think you get a product that is as good as the Mandalorian.
So let me ask you this. So, okay, I'll agree with you that Tamara Morrison is old. He's old. But so is Mark Hamill. And we're seeing Luke Skywalker in the flesh doing flips, and it looks great. Why can't we do the same thing with Boba Fett's character when he takes his helmet off?
Yeah, I mean, my only argument to that is when we see Luke Skywalker do a flip, we don't really see his face.
Then make it that way.
Well, but yeah, I mean, you could, but then that kind of eliminates the need for Tamora Morrison at all. Like, hire someone that looks kind of like Tamora Morrison, have him do all of like the in-body work, and all that other stuff. And then have just Tamora Morrison, and have Tamora Morrison voice over his doing what he's doing, because
what we're playing, Boba Fett as the age that he is now. So, I mean, okay, yeah, he might be slow, but his dialogue is still good.
Well, no, here's the thing. It's not Boba Fett. Boba Fett should look exactly how he looked at the end of Return of the Jedi. But whenever we see Tamora Morrison crawling out of that pit and doing the thing, we're like, oh, that doesn't look right. We know that it doesn't look right whenever he is doing stuff. And that's what I'm saying is like, you could get all that stuff, all the production, and have something really good. But we as fans, we don't have to question Luke Skywalker's deep fake because it looks exactly like Mark Hamill. Like, that's not Mark Hamill actually in the flesh doing those things. But you get Tamora Morrison doing these things or attempting to do these things, and we're like, this feels like a different character. And because it is, like, he's not the same as what he was, and like Disney is trying to push this new Boba Fett on us. And I'm just saying, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's horrible. I'm not saying Tamora Morrison is horrible or anything like that. I think it is good. I just think there is content that can be told. Like, you can take literally this depiction of Boba Fett from this age doing all this stuff, and I just think it would be more serviceable to like a comic book or a game at this point. Like, I don't really want any more live action Tamora Morrison as Boba Fett. I don't think it looks right. Like,
fair enough.
And I mean, that's just that may be the wrong take. I don't know. I don't know if it's the wrong take. I enjoyed a lot of the stuff that I saw, but now that Mando is here, I'm just kind of like, well, frick, like, yeah, they're definitely going to phase him out now because there's no arguing as to which one is better. Like, there isn't, and it's frustrating because I kind of get where you're coming from. It could have been as good, but now they've set it up to where if you do anything Boba Fett related after this point right now, even if you had just done, let's say Din wouldn't have been in these past 2 episodes. If you make more content with Tamora Morrison as Boba Fett, what are we going to be comparing it to?
Yeah.
The first 2 seasons of Mandalorian. So what is better? Is it servicing him and other means, or having a live action series that's just good, but has us comparing it to the better show?
There's always going to be a better show, though. I mean, in any spinoff series, there's always going to be a better show.
Right. I'm saying, like, what is going to be better, though? Like, seeing more live action Boba Fett like Tamora Morrison, or seeing more Mandalorian? Like, I'm fine with having him pop in every once in a while, but like, if you make more Boba Fett stuff, it's going to pale in comparison because of what exists already, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I guess I'm not arguing with that. That makes sense.
And it's frustrating because I'm not saying that I want it to be that way. I don't want it to be that way. I wish we could have. It's how it is, and there's just no getting around that. Now, like I said, in this type of situation, as we move further, they're going to develop Grogu and Din and Mando, and like do that as things move forward. That is going to be their star. It also comes back to a key question: who has saved Star Wars? Literally, who has brought the entire fan base together to have these types of discussions? It's not freaking Boba Fett. I'm telling you that right now. It's Din Djarin.
It's one handsome person in chrome armor.
Literally. It is Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau, Bryce Dallas Howard, and whoever let them do that. So I guess we have to thank Kathleen Kennedy for letting them.
Don't you dare.
We have to. She's the president. We have to.
Take it back. Take it back.
But literally, we have gotten a character that has set the stage for the new era of Star Wars. And the fact that we're getting any live action Boba Fett content at all, you'll be happy to get it. But guess what? It's not important. And this is extra content to accentuate Din Djarin and his quest. And personally, if this is all we get live action Star Wars wise, I'm okay with it because I don't think it's bad. I think it's good, and I think it's Star Wars. It's Star Wars serviceable. It does a good job. It can't be amazing because we don't need 2 people with similar armor trying to fight for the spotlight. It's not going to work. Like, it's supply and demand at the end of the day. Like, if you have 2 legendary characters doing their thing, like, I don't know. I think people will not. I don't think people will like that. I think people. Right. I'm just saying. And I'm never trying to be a douche about any of my arguments or anything, and I get where you're coming from. Like I said, I don't want it to be this way. I don't want it to be. I wish we had more for Boba Fett, but if we get anything else, I think it's going to come via animated series, comic book, or book.
And I would be happy with if none of that happened. If Mandalorian season 3, 4, maybe 5, hopefully, we never know. If he just pops in once in a while, that'd be good enough for me. But it seems like he got robbed. and that bugs me.
He did get
well,
robbed. He did get
yeah.
robbed. Like he did. There's no denying that. And the fact that the book of Boba Fett even exists, it is a little strange. I will give you that. But I think it's the best way to take all aspects of the fandom and attempt to bring them together. There's probably some diehard like Boba Fett fans out there that are like, oh no, dude, I'm not doing this. Like, no way, not having it.
I know a handful of them.
Yeah, and that's fine. It's probably it's a smaller version of what happened with the sequel trilogy, I think.
Yeah.
And for like, all I have to say is it is what it is. And I do want to clear something up. I don't hate the sequels. I think they are all fine standalone movies. I hate them as a trilogy because there's nothing connecting them. Like,
well, I think that's a bigger conversation, but that has to do with who directed it, I think.
Yeah, no, that is the conversation. I mean, that is what it is. But I think there are a lot of aspects I love about those movies. But whenever we see the fact that we're getting a character that makes our tummies flutter whenever he's on screen, unitedly, we all love the Mandalorian as Star Wars fans. That's a good thing.
And I will say too that, like, it's two sides of a very, very bitter coin. You have the one side where it's like, oh my God, episode 5 happened and Mando walks in. We were not expecting that at all. Like, I wasn't expecting him to come in the middle of the series. I was expecting him to come at the end, if at all. So that was a very sweet moment. But then the bitter side of the coin is, well, it's taking away from who the series really is about. I mean, couldn't this have been Mandalorian season 3, episode 1? So it's a very bittersweet coin. Do I hate the episodes? No, absolutely not. I love them. I'm feeling like this is Boba's spotlight, maybe his final spotlight. Let's leave it on Boba. Well, even if it's terrible, let's close this book. Let's close it.
I think too, we as fans, we want things to be a certain way, but whenever we identify, it's going to be very clear as to what the objective of this show was whenever it's over. And I think if we can put our personal preferences aside to what we wanted to see versus what it is, at least there's a clear vision for what is happening. I think it might be easier to be more at peace, because I can 100% promise you, Lige, that this isn't the last time that Boba Fett is going to be in the spotlight. This is probably the last time he's going to be in the live action spotlight. And we will probably see him again live action in general. But this is definitely in a way, this is a soft reset for him if they decide to continue him as a character. The amount of money that can be made through all kinds of different mediums off of this new Boba Fett is kind of crazy whenever you think about it, because you're going to have this secondary audience that may really like the Mandalorian, but maybe Boba Fett's their character. There's going to be so many people that are going to eat up whatever content comes out next for him. I have no doubt about that.
Which that makes sense, because, I mean, what is the best way to launch a stream of content like that other than putting him in a live action space where he's a new character? He's our same old Boba Fett, but he's a new character. He's brought new leaves, and then the series ends, and now we're all thinking, oh, well, what happens next? Okay, we'll buy the comic books. There's exactly. a 20 issue series of the comic books. Makes sense. Do we all want that? I don't. I can tell you probably don't either, but that's how it's going to be. And I'm not going to hate it. I'm not going to hate it, but it does suck.
It's more akin to me of I want to know kind of the in between, same thing with the Kylo Ren comics. It's like, oh, so that's what happened. If we get all they did was give themselves an excuse to make millions and millions of dollars off of toys and potential future licensing for anything, really. I mean, comic books, Dark Horse now. I mean, this seems like a perfect opportunity just to have a Boba Fett series under Dark Horse, because Dark Horse can make Star Wars comics again now. I mean, this isn't the last time that Boba Fett's going to be in the spotlight, for sure. If I personally would like to see more, I mean, Chrysanthemum, Fennec Shand, those are really, really interesting characters that really haven't really been explored that much. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but Yeah.
I think all these characters are going to cross over into other shows anyway.
Oh yeah, it's going to be just an intertangling web of content. I think go ahead, Jake. Sorry.
I think we'll still see Boba Fett in in other series in certain episodes. Obviously, he won't be a focal point, but
yeah,
I do think we'll see him in other series.
Well, I mean, it all boils down to I think what all three of us can level on. I think we can quit kicking this dead horse, but we're having new Star Wars content coming out in our lifetime. That's what it all boils down to. We can argue till we're blue in the face about who likes what, but we're just all excited that we got new Star Wars. And I think that's the main thing that we have to look forward to.
Yeah, I 100% agree. If anything, this series has shown that old school Star Wars fans and fans of whatever's to come new with Star Wars, like, this gives us something to talk about. And the fact that it's giving us anything to argue about is a godsend, in my opinion. Like, because before it was just, I would argue till I was blue in the face about the sequel trilogy, because I would think to myself, or I would say to myself, like, how could you argue against this thing? Like, this is what we got. Like, don't hate on it. But now, as more and more stuff comes out, it's like, yeah, I get where you're coming from, and let's agree on this now. Like, let's talk about this new thing. Let's talk about Mando. Let's talk about Book of Boba Fett. Like, let's find some common ground as Star Wars fans, because notoriously that's kind of what the fan base does. Like, we just talk about it, argue about it, like find it. Like, for instance, my cousin texted me. I'm gonna read you verbatim what he said. He said, did you say episode 2 of Boba Fett was your favorite Star Wars thing ever? And I said, one of my favorites. The Tusken Raider story is pretty freaking rad. We always thought that they were mindless animals. I just thought it was super interesting. He says, well, for some reason, I always thought they were human type aliens with masks on. And I mean, it's like, well, yeah, I didn't mean, I was quoting Jake. It was like, yeah, we always thought they were just like, whatever.
Their personality.
And then he texts me and says, I just saw the teaser for Obi-Wan. My excitement for my excitement for that show is through the roof. When I think of Star Wars, I think of him. And
of Obi-Wan.
And for me, that immediately tells me what I need to know as a Star Wars fan. Like, when you're trying to talk to somebody about that, because he is a fan of Star Wars, is he the same type of fan that I am? Probably not. So then you're able to kind of talk about, like, it's such a big subject. You're able to talk about and pick and choose what you want to elaborate on. And you don't have to mansplain anything else about what you might know. You can literally connect on that one thing. And that's literally what they are giving us right now, is those opportunities to have maybe those one or two connections about Star Wars. And it's just growing so much more, and it's just really cool.
I actually do agree with that. Honestly, when I think of Star Wars, the first person that pops into my mind is Obi-Wan.
Well,
that's immediately who I think of.
There you have it.
Okay, I have a question.
Okay. Before you hold on to that question, I'm about to piss myself. I'll be right back.
Nice.
Tea break.
And we're back. Elijah, did you have something that you wanted to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, let's let bygones be bygones. Arguments happen on the podcast. I love you. Let's just call it. Let's just lay it lie. Let's draw a line in the sand.
What we need to do is you just need to admit that you're wrong.
I absolutely will not, and we're going back to war. I love you. That's all the good spirit of the podcast.
No, dude, I it's like I told you. I've said this before. Like, at a certain point, I'll just stop arguing, because it's just not worth it, But no, I thought that was a good discussion. I hope I gave our listeners some stuff to think about. You know what I mean?
I for sure did too. I can see Emma walking back in the kitchen, and it's distracting.
Oh yeah, sorry. They can see.
Yell at her for me.
No, I think they might have saw you walking by. But so Jake, what was your question?
Okay, so this has the potential to be a really short point. So, okay, so in Rebels, and I haven't finished it. I think I'm just about to the end of season 3. But I was thinking today, in Rebels, it shows Mandalore, and they go to Mandalore, and Mandalore is like half destroyed. Was that before it got glassed?
That was before, yes.
So did it get glassed like sometime around Empire?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. No, it was pre. It was post Rebels, pre New Hope. I'm pretty sure. I can look that up. I can give you an exact answer.
Yeah,
Okay.
probably like same time period as like Rogue One, probably like the Dark Times, probably.
So like right before New Hope. Okay. So, okay, if that's the case then, and if Din Djarin cannot go back to Mandalore because it's just too far gone, she mentioned to him, this is going to be like some deep, probably nonsense theory, so you can tell me if I'm way off, but she told him that he could only regain his title in the living waters of Mandalore. So if he cannot go back to Mandalore, here's my question. Mos Espa? Or, yeah, Mos Espa, I believe. Is it not built in a sinkhole?
Mm,
I'm sorry. Say that one more time.
is Mos Espa built in a sinkhole?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Okay, see, I was thinking it was, maybe it's just a crater, but in my mind, I was thinking sinkhole. And so my thought was, if it's a sinkhole, there's water on Tatooine. So I was wondering if somehow, I haven't thought it through, so I don't know how it would work, but if they would discover water on Tatooine, at least to the point where people could be supplied. And if that's the case, being a Mandalorian and maybe being Boba's territory ruled by a Mandalorian, could he be baptized in the living waters of Tatooine and it count as the living waters of Mandalore?
That is a very bold theory. That is very, very bold.
Because, so I was reading on Tatooine a little, and is it legends or canon that Tatooine used to be like a lush jungle?
Yeah, well, yeah, it used to be it used to be essentially kind of like Earth, like it had oceans on it.
Yeah,
Right.
it used to have like the big deserts. So I guess it would be just like Africa here on Earth. I mean, Africa,
Or the Sahara?
the Sahara Desert was all ocean.
Okay, I was just making sure. So that's kind of where my mind went, was
That would be baller if if Boba was like he's like ruling Tatooine. That would literally,
water.
yeah, I mean, that would literally give Boba purpose, and that would continue Din's purpose perfectly into season 3.
Dude,
and
how
that would be
mad
baller.
How mad are you going to be if Jake has another prediction that comes absolutely correct? How many predictions has he had that has come correct this whole season?
I mean, he's had several.
So, because I think I was talking to Elijah about it last week, and that I told him I don't know much Mandalorian lore, and I kind of wanted to learn more. So I've just been doing a lot of reading, and I got to thinking about that, and then I was watching Rebels yesterday, and it made me think. I was like, well, if it got glassed after this, it was already half destroyed. So maybe more than likely he won't be able to go back to Mandalore. And maybe, like Gabe said, Boba will have some sort of play or purpose in finding water on Tatooine. And
again, if your theory's right, it just proves that Boba's arc is meant to accentuate Din Djarin.
Yeah. Yeah, and then it ties back into that.
And here's another thing too. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just saying, I'm doing some research here just to clarify. There is no documented year of when Mandalore was destroyed, so we know that it's at least sometime after Rebels, and it's just sometime after Rebels, and I'm presuming it would be before A New Hope happened, or even Rogue One.
Yeah, I'm not 100,000% convinced though that the destruction of Mandalore is the same thing as like Alderaan. I think if it is a ruin,
it's not.
Yeah,
it's not because the Death Star wasn't created, but I firmly believe the Death Star was not created by the time, when Mandalore was destroyed. The Death Star was not created, because the first record that we have of Death Star destruction is Jeddah. That's our first, and they didn't even destroy the planet,
right?
Technically, I mean, it wasn't like Alderaan. Alderaan was a complete.
It was like the first successful,
Yeah. So I firmly believe it was not with the Death Star. So I think it was Star Destroyers only, just a barrage of batteries firing.
Well, and that's what the Flashback showed too.
Yeah, I mean, then that would make sense.
But because I was reading about Mandalore a little, and it did. Whoever wrote the article, I guess I don't know how accurate it would be, but they did say that was before the Death Star. That's how the Emperor would do things.
Hmm.
And he bombed it and destroyed it, and it said that was before the birth of the Death Star.
So it would line up.
Yep.
But anyway, that was like something, a side thought I was thinking.
I mean, I think it would be kind of cool too if this might be kind of as far as Jake kind of kicked off our prediction discussion. I do think I'm still sticking to my guns. I think Boba's gonna die, and I think they will find some way for Din to use a piece of his armor.
Oh, that would be cool.
I mean, Din kind of has like his full Beskar, but he's gonna need to give something away to Grogu if Grogu is going to stay like in the fold.
Well, here's a question: does Din Djarin have a jetpack yet?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he does.
Oh, he does.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, never mind.
Or, I mean, they could. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's gonna be an interesting episode. Like that's kind of my tentative prediction.
It does make sense because you can already see an emotional connection between Din Djarin and Boba Fett. I mean, there's a reason why Din Djarin threw back the bag of credits to Fennec Shand and said it's on the house. There's already an emotional connection there.
Yeah.
So that would make sense. I firmly believe that it would be a mistake to kill off Boba Fett. Not so much because that's what I want. Like, I mean, obviously that's what I want, but I'd be upset, but I wouldn't be overturned because Boba Fett would die like other people would.
Yeah. Oh, we lost you for a second. We lost your camera, Lige.
Hang on, Allie's calling me. Sorry.
Oh, no worries.
What do you think? Or they could go back to Mandalore, and I really think in this last episode of Boba's going to be on the Rancor. And so what would you think about them working a way to go back to Mandalore, and stinking Din Djarin finds a, what do they call it, mythosaur?
Oh yeah,
and he
in the ruins
learns to write it.
Oh my god, that'd be so rad.
Because that's something I read on Mandalore lore, is that Mandalorians used to tame them and ride them.
Tame mythosaurs. Yeah, I think whatever they do at the end of this series, or this series, it's going to be setting up the plot for the next season of The Mandalorian, which is great.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, whatever they do decide to do, I think it's going to be rad. I was thinking, there's a lot of parallels between like Westerns and stuff like that.
Yeah, very much so.
I think about like Pale Rider. At the end of the movie, if I recall correctly, it ends kind of how it begins. So, because isn't that how it goes? Like he rides into town, and then at the end of it, like he rides out of town after he's served his purpose. So, in a way, and he helps out the people there, yada yada yada. So before the Book of Boba Fett, we thought Boba Fett was dead for a long time, and our question was like, how did he survive? Well, in a way, our idea of how, our idea of how he was, which was dead, that's how the show began. So at the end, what if they really killed him?
Oh.
And like just nipped it in the bud.
I would hate it. And
it would have to be like,
people would hate it.
It would have to be an epic episode.
It would have to be an epic episode. And I think the fact that you're like, oh, I would hate this, speaks to it even more that it might even happen because of what they've done to Star Wars and how like decisions they've made to make people hate stuff, especially with classic characters. Because their answer to make the way for their new Star Wars is to just kill the past.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to stand firm to what I said last week. If they kill Boba Fett, every Star Wars fan that even had the little, from the biggest doubt to the littlest doubt about how Disney is handling things will come true. And Star Wars, I firmly believe if they kill Boba Fett, Star Wars will be dead. As long as Disney rules it, it will be dead, in my opinion.
I think that to a lesser degree. I think that with people who love Boba Fett, and I know there's a lot, but people who are just huge Boba Fett people will feel that way. I like Boba Fett a lot, but to me, I'm like, well, like he's a really cool character, but yeah, let's either develop him and just throw him into stardom, or let's go with Mando, or let's get a character like they've done with Mando.
I
And
could care less, honestly, if
yeah,
they kill Boba Fett.
I didn't want to say that because it was kind of,
I don't
but
care.
that is kind of how I feel.
This has been a nice little distraction, and it's been fun, but to me, I could. I think to the people, especially to the casual Star Wars fan, and here's another thing: I don't think near as many people are watching this show as we think.
I don't think so.
It's not showing up in news headlines. It's not making a splash. Nothing is happening. So if anything, this is, I'm sticking firm to what I said in terms of like, this is a nice distraction for people who are keeping in touch with Star Wars as it is. It's interesting for people who love Boba Fett, but whatever they decide to do, I mean, I won't care either way. If they keep him alive, cool. If they decide not to, I don't really care. Like, so I don't know. I don't know, man. You really think Star Wars as we know it, like the fans are going, because here's the thing. I don't know. How do I say this? I definitely think the group of people that saw the sequels, if they didn't already jump ship, are the same group of people that are going to be watching Book of Boba Fett. And I think the same people that didn't like what that happened with the Star Wars, the sequels, and are hopeful or just like interested in what comes next. I think if they kill Boba Fett, those people will still be like, yeah, leave it to Disney to like ruin characters. They brought Boba Fett back to life and they made him look like a complete wuss in this season and yada, yada. And then they killed him at the end of it. Like this was pointless, yada, yada, yada. I think that core group of people, I don't think they're going to jump ship on Star Wars. I think they're going to be like, well, when's the next season of Mandalorian coming out?
Yeah, and I wouldn't say necessarily jump ship. It's just, I think it's going to be all the people that, I don't want to say defend Disney, but are just like I think us three here, we're just glad that there's Star Wars out.
Yeah.
I think if they kill off a Boba Fett without giving him his due diligence, like we've all wanted him to have, that's going to ruin it for guys like us. Well, and it's going to be hard to look at, well, I'm just glad there's Star Wars out. It's going to become just that. I'm just glad that there's Star Wars out. It's not going to be anything to look forward to because I think Spark will die. I really do.
Even with The Mandalorian?
I think, in my opinion, I think to what Elijah said, you'll have, when it comes to Boba, you'll have two sets of people. You'll have your casuals who love Boba, and those would be the people that would give up on Star Wars. But then you have people who love Boba who are not casuals, like Elijah, that would look at it and be like, that sucks. I'm mad. But yeah, I'm not going to give up on Star Wars.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be pissed off that they killed Boba and critique them a lot more on what they do from here on out.
I'm telling you, at least for a guy like me, and I mean, I'm a Boba Fett fan.
And see, I think that's the thing is I'm not a Boba Fett fan. I mean, you can, historically, I've always said that Boba Fett is a chump. Why do we make such a big deal about him?
But I'm more of a Han Solo fan. And I mean, and I watched Han Solo get stabbed through the chest in the very first movie that he came back in, and that was devastating. And so if you put that in, I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's the wide eyes for me.
If you dissect that a little bit, even though that's my favorite character, that death was so traumatic because I totally thought he was going to be in at least the next two movies, maybe not the whole trilogy, but maybe at least two, and then he dies so abruptly like that. That was hard, but I still didn't give up on Star Wars. And for me to say that I truly believe that if Boba Fett dies, it's gonna. I will say I'm not as big a Boba Fett fan as I am Han Solo. If Boba Fett dies in the next episode, it's really going to strike a chord with me with how Disney is handling Star Wars.
See, but that's, to me, in my opinion, that's why I disagree with you, because Han Solo is by far your favorite character.
Yeah.
Like head and shoulders, no comparison. Nobody gets close. And you watched him die, and you're still, right now, you're talking about Boba Fett. We've talked about Mandalorian and how gung-ho and in on it you are. Man, like, man, they're doing awesome. I think, and this is just my opinion, but I think it sounds like it's more of that's how you're thinking about it. You don't like the thought of it, but once it actually happens and it moves on and we keep getting the quality of what we're getting now. I think if you survived Han Solo dying the way he did, I think, you know, Boba will be a breeze.
Well, I'm not gonna rip every Star Wars poster I have off my wall.
Yeah, well, and I just want to clarify something too. We are not definitively saying like, oh, this is how it's going to be. Like, this is how we, you know, we are simply talking for the sake of having discussion and talking about this thing because it's opening a lot of doors. But the more doors that open, there has to be some that close, and it's just a matter of how are they going to close those doors. If they do it right, you know, if they decide to kill Boba Fett, it's going to be done well.
Like I really wish I had your enthusiasm on that. If they're gonna kill him off, that it's gonna be done well. I just don't have faith that
it's not like Kathleen Kennedy is doing this. Like it's the same people that have given us everything we've had with this series so far, and the same people that have given us the first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian. If they could stick the landing with literally, I mean, there's one more episode left. It'll probably be an hour long. If there's one thing that we can be confident in, it's that the people that are handling whatever television Star Wars is moving forward, they love Star Wars and they love Star Wars fans and they want to give the fans what they want. So if they decide to kill Boba Fett, it's going to be epic. If they don't kill him, it's going to be good. There's plenty of opportunity. Kersantin, Fennec Shan, Boba Fett, and his Gamorrean guards, there's plenty for them to do on Tatooine, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is plenty for them to do.
Yeah, like discover water.
Like discover water. Hey, it does rain on Tatooine, just so you know. It's rare, but it does rain there, just so you know. Jake, I want to punch you.
Why?
I'm just kidding. I'm just joking.
Jeez.
Does it worry? So one thing I did want to bring out was we talked about how many people were watching Boba Fett. So season 2 of Mandalorian had 1.1 million U.S. households watching. Book of Boba Fett has 1.7 million households watching, according to the Googles.
Wow. More people are watching Boba Fett than The Mandalorian?
That's what Google says, but I'm gonna take that as far as it goes because I'm not gonna dive and do.
It's interesting because I just don't see anything ever trending on Twitter about Boba Fett, and maybe now with this latest episode. But I think the resounding critical like reception has been meh, like for the most part. And
yeah, you're gonna have a bunch of people watching, and you know, oh, Star Wars has been awesome, Mando's been awesome. We're gonna keep watching Boba, but
yeah, that doesn't mean it has to make.
You're not gonna have the same level of audience dedication that literally what we have. Like, you're not gonna have the same fervor. You're gonna have people making fun of it. First of all, like it's a much different beast altogether, I think. And like, you know what, that would actually make sense because there's a lot of like hardcore Boba Fett fans out there that are going to be watching the show week to week. It's interesting. It's a really interesting like conversation that we're having about what the future holds for this franchise and for The Mandalorian and for Boba Fett. I think it's interesting that we can all acknowledge though that Boba Fett has to take the back seat whenever it should be the other way around.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's fine with me. I love Din Djarin. I love what he is doing. And if I ever say like, oh, if I was Disney or if I was whatever, I'm never trying to say that I should be there or I should be doing these things. It is purely literally putting myself in those shoes and saying, what would I do? If I was in the room with all the writers and everyone working on this show doing this thing, I would literally say, we can't have Boba outshine Mando. It can't happen. Not one time. Because if we're going to make this character legendary and make him like the focal point of Star Wars moving forward, because Din Djarin's quest and what he is doing is paving the way for everything to happen for the future of Star Wars. We talked about accentuating. Din Djarin is a plot device and a character that is going to accentuate everything else that has been legacy content or like legacy ideas, you know, regarding Jedi, regarding everything that we've seen so far. They're going to use this regular average Joe who's relatable to make everything else more important with whatever it is he's doing, whether it be with Grogu or whatever he's doing. And that's huge. So, yeah, does it kind of suck for Boba Fett? Yeah, it kind of does. But guess what? We have nothing to go off of for Boba Fett's character live action wise. You can't bring the comics and you can't bring the books into it. Dave Filoni can. Dave Filoni can pick out things and say, you know, X, Y, and Z, maybe we should think about these traits. But you cannot bring anything else that has not been live action because you have to view your show as a new watcher. So when Cad Bane shows up, if people don't know who Cad Bane is, his entrance is incredible because we know what we've seen what Cobb Vanth and Mando did at the beginning of season 2 of Mando. They took down a crate dragon.
That's one thing I saw on Twitter was that was one thing I saw that was trending was who is Cad Bane. And that was interesting to me, but I mean, it's mysterious enough and it's introduction enough that where the people have no idea who he is.
They're now and they're interested.
They're invested because he had a great introduction into live action.
Yeah, and that's the thing is if we're a hardcore Star Wars fan like we are, because that's the thing is I don't know that we're all hardcore Boba Fett fans. We are all pretty hardcore Star Wars fans.
Yeah.
Everyone on this podcast is. And we critique it a lot. We love it. We talk about it all the time. But you have to kind of take a step back as a Star Wars fan and really as, you know, put yourself in the shoes of like, you know, what we call ourselves, wannabe critics. View this show through the lens of a new viewer as a casual Star Wars fan. And if you do that, you can literally put all the pieces together of how this has to go. Because now if you're a Star Wars fan and you're, you know, anticipating what's going to happen, you're looking at it, you're like, oh, they're going to go here with this thing and do this thing. But as a casual viewer, it's all going to be like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing ever. And not to mention the younger viewers watching it week to week that may have no idea all these little nuances. And the fact that they put all those little nuances there for whatever is a big deal for hardcore Star Wars fans like us. But the fact that it works as a standalone, aside from that, is incredible. Like what they are doing is insane. So for me, the fact that we've gotten as much Boba Fett stuff as we have, I'm thrilled with it because Boba Fett is mysterious, but he's one of the most boring characters ever. Like for all the live action stuff, like we never got to see him do anything cool in live action ever, except for, you know, haul Han Solo off. That's the coolest thing he ever did. And all the cool stuff that we think of happening to Boba Fett is through other means. Like, oh, we can drive the Slave One in Battlefront and we can be Boba Fett and like do all this other stuff. And the mystery is interesting, but like literally we see him for a minute, 2 minutes tops and Empire Strikes Back. Then we see him get wrecked. We see him get wrecked, you know, and as a casual viewer, that is the last thing they're going to remember that's happened to Boba Fett.
Yeah. That's why I feel like just the mystique around his character was too much to live up to.
I do too. And again, going back to like the initial marketing for Mandalorian, it was like, oh my God, like, or, you know, I remember hearing someone saying, I was like, dude, is Mando and Boba Fett going to fight? You know, because like it resurrected rumors of Boba Fett, a resurrected mythos of Boba Fett, because this guy is wearing a helmet that looks like Jango Fett's helmet. And we're having these discussions like who would win in a fight, you know, and all this other stuff. So the fact that we got anything about Boba Fett is a godsend, as I said before. I mean, I'm thrilled with what we have so far. If they decide to kill him and keep him in this contained 7-episode thing, you know, I don't know. I'll have to view it as a whole piece because there are aspects of this show that I don't like at all. But most of it, I think, really fits and I think is cool to like the Western format.
I think at the end of this series, once we watch the episode next week and finally record the final episode in this series, I truly do think that what happens in this episode is going to greatly deter our thinking on what we're talking about right now. We'll have totally different thinking.
Yeah,
next week.
And I hope we have
We're
another.
gonna find out if it's going to continue or if it's not going to continue.
Yeah, I think
exactly.
my attitude will be, will be changed at Jake and you too, Gabe. No matter what happens, I don't think our views that we have tonight are going to be like they are next week.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's part of the fun, though. Like, there is a podcast I used to listen to called A Storm of Spoilers, and they would spoil each episode of a show. And if you wanted to like know the spoilers, like they would recap the show as it was happening, and then they would talk about the spoilers of the show, of what was to come next. And I always loved that because some of their predictions they would make on stuff would be, their feelings would be like completely. Some of their spoilers wouldn't be true too. They'd be like, "Oh, these are the spoilers we found," yada yada yada. But they would like base their theories off of it. And that's, guys, that is the type of podcasting that I love, is having these conversations and having those like water cooler moments and arguing about stuff. And like, who knows? Maybe next week I'll come back and be like, "Guys, I was a jackass. I'm an idiot," yada yada yada. But that may not happen.
Yeah, that's
whatever.
That's what I like about predicting is.
Yeah, me too.
And he'll be way off, and then like Elijah will nail it or something. And
yeah,
like, oh, that was cool.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing too, is like there are some people, like Ethan refuses to do a week-to-week discussion and predict things. He doesn't want to. He wants to let it happen as it happens. And I think for me, I'm the opposite mindset. I want to get all this brain vomit out and talk about it, because if anything is real, guess what? We have documentation that we predicted X, Y, and Z. We have all this stuff, and that's awesome to have. And it's not just for the sake of saying I told you so. It's just for the sake of being like, hey, we were on the same wavelength as the people that are making this thing.
I do think that for sure that we can predict, and that's going to be spot on the money, is that Danny Trejo will be back next week, and we will see a Rancor riding situation. There will be a saddle on a Rancor, and Danny Trejo may or may not have his shirt on or off. So
with a machete.
With a machete.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Lige, thank you so much for bringing us home. I appreciate it. I feel like I got to talk for another 40 minutes. I'm not going to lie.
I still have a prediction.
What's your prediction?
Oh, geez.
So this one is not.
Final thought.
So I think based off of how this ended, I kind of think, and I think it's more of a want, that I think Grogu will choose the armor. Yeah. And I think by choosing the armor, again, this is like a want. This is what I would like to see. I think by choosing the armor, Luke is going to learn that the ancient Jedi way may not be the best way to go. And I think he will, starting from this point on, I think he will begin to tweak the Jedi way and learn from Grogu that maybe attachments aren't a bad thing.
Which would make sense, because why would he dare take his nephew to train his nephew? Why would he put himself so close to his nephew?
Boom. Yep. Really good call. Yeah, that would make sense.
And so I think that he will still end up with Yoda's saber.
Which would then, you think he's going to let him have it?
Yeah, I think he'll still end up with Yoda's saber, and I think Mando will yield the dark saber strictly because at this point in Star Wars, it's still not for sure if you have to be force sensitive to wield that, because Finn Rao and Rebels even said down through the years it has been wielded by Mandalorians to unify them. And now that doesn't necessarily say if they were force sensitive or not, so that's still kind of up in the air. But I do think Din Djarin he'll learn to use the dark saber.
Wow,
and I think he'll be the one.
What a solid prediction to end the conversation.
No kidding, because then that would later make sense as to why Luke's like, you know what? If there's one thing Ben taught me, it's the thing of the Force does not belong to the Jedi to wield. The Force is just existing. And there's so much to explore there, because on Dathomir, the Force, they are Force users, but they use it in a much different way. And I'm just going to tell you guys right now, little teaser for the RPG podcast that's going to be coming out this spring.
Oh boy.
Just wait until y'all go to Dathomir.
Oh jeez. Oh jeez.
I just finished the quest for that, like the main quest for that planet. And all I have to say is you guys are in for a treat, is all I have to say. And listeners, just so you guys know.
Oh,
Be on the
geez.
lookout. Be on the lookout. I just got the logo back for Star Wars and RPG podcast, or Story Time, a Star Wars RPG podcast. I'll show you guys the rough idea for the logo. It's not quite done yet, but this is the rough hand drawing. You might be able to see it, maybe, but essentially, it's not focusing in. But basically, we have the classic wannabe symbol. We have a blaster in each. We have a blaster in one hand, a lightsaber in another hand. The Star Wars like rebel logo with the lightsaber in front of it. We have an X-wing passing through the back of it. So
can we throw it up on screen right now?
Yeah, I'll send it. I'll throw it up. I might wait because there was a couple things I was having her tweak. So whenever it's ready, I'll put out an announcement on Twitter, and I'll put it up in a future episode. But guys, when I say I'm so excited for this project, you just don't even know how excited I am. It's going to be amazing. But awesome. Go ahead, Jake.
One last little side point. I think as a result of Grogu choosing to go with Mando, I think my prediction in turn of Ahsoka inadvertently training Grogu will also come true, because I think while he'll choose Mando and Luke may give him the saber or something, I think Ahsoka will play a fairly big part with Mando, and I think she will end up helping him train somewhat.
Because Ahsoka's not initially or like closely affiliated with the Jedi, she might view it in his best interest to kind of guide him, at least.
Yeah,
be an Obi-Wan to a Luke instead of a master to an apprentice.
Yep.
More like be a Qui-Gon to an Anakin rather than
Yep.
I also think that it's Obi-Wan that Grogu was on the back of.
What do you mean?
That in that flashback scene where Grogu was clearly on the back of somebody.
Oh,
Obi-Wan was
really?
I don't think Obi-Wan wasn't in the temple at all.
No, he wasn't there because he came back with Yoda.
He was on Utapau.
Yeah, he was on Utapau. Yeah, he was on Utapau.
Was he?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because he came back with Yoda in Revenge of the Sith whenever they're trying to like look through who did this, and then they see Anakin like sunning everybody pretty much. So
good idea, but wrong.
I thought Yoda was on Kashyyyk.
Yoda was on Kashyyyk. They reconvene. They come back because Bail Organa, he flees the temple and then reconvenes with Yoda. And because Yoda leaves the temple, Bail Organa goes to pick up Yoda after he loses the fight with Sidious. Because Yoda's like, failed, have I? And then he goes, takes him back to his whatever, his ship or whatever. And then that's whenever Obi-Wan shows back up.
Yoda leaves Kashyyyk, goes to the temple, fights the Emperor,
fights Sidious.
And then hooks up with Bail Organa, and then takes him back, and they all three of them meet up. Obi-Wan,
God dang, boy, you didn't do your homework. Shoot, you don't know what you're talking about. You come on the podcast. Hells bells, boy. No, I'm just kidding. All right, gentlemen, it's been about an hour 45, and I have to pee again. So I love you guys, and ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. Lige, Jacob, where can people find you?
Creep to Your Left on Instagram, Creep to Your Left on Twitter. Stay tuned for Beer Bros East Side. Hopefully something will be coming of that soon. I know I keep saying it week to week, but check out our socials. Other than that, stay classy.
There you have it.
I'm Jacob Allen Photos on Instagram, JACOBALAN Photos on Instagram, and Ferderko on Twitter, FERDERKO.
There you have it, ladies and gents. Thank you so much for listening to this hour and 40-ish minute long discussion of our predictions, what we thought of the latest episode. I love you guys. You guys have officially become wannabe critics, and it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So we'll have to start talking about what our next show is going to be. I'm thinking a Mandalorian rewatch after.
I am down with that.
Yeah, after Book of Boba Fett. Emma has decided to make an appearance.
Hey, Emma,
can you get out of here? I'm trying to wrap up the show. I'd appreciate it. She's always undermining me in front of my friends. gonna be great. Yeah, we just appreciate you guys tuning in. So until next time, say goodbye, gentlemen.
Toodles.
Toodles. Well, once again, thank you so much for showing up today. I really, really appreciate it. Again, if this is your first time here, consider subscribing. I know that's the thing that all the YouTubers do. Everyone's asking to sub. The fact of the matter is that it doesn't cost you anything to subscribe, and who knows, you might even see a video every now and then that you actually like or may be interested in. Not only that, I do a bunch of stuff, so make sure you check all the information down in the description down below. We got podcasts, we got Let's Plays, we got all kinds of stuff for all kinds of fandoms. So make sure you check that out. I would seriously, seriously appreciate it, and I would love to see you around here more. I am Gabe Real Fast. I will always be the Wannabe Critic.